Okay guys, so the first type of pictorial that we're going to be looking at is the 1 point perspective. We've done these before, maybe in the lower school. If you're doing higher, then obviously you should have done these in your National 5 class as well. So with all perspectives, you need to have a horizon line. The horizon line can also be referred to as eye level. So depending on where you draw the object in relation to the horizon, so for example, if you draw the object below the horizon, you will be looking down at it. If you draw the object above the horizon, you are going to be looking up at it. So horizon line, also known as your eye level. For this one here, we're going to also need to make sure that we have one vanishing point. The vanishing point can be anywhere on the horizon. It really depends how you want to look at the object. I'm going to put my vanishing point over here. I'm going to call it vanishing point number 1. So to start off with, we're just going to do a cube. I've got my set square here with you, but you can obviously do this freehand as well. I'm doing it in a pen because I want to make sure that it shows up on the video. The 1 point perspective, you have to draw the elevation of what you're drawing. Okay, it's not side on, you're looking at this face on. The elevation is drawn completely in proportion. There is no foreshortening, so that means everything is drawn actual size. Depending on where your vanishing point is related to your object, you may or may not need to take all of the corners back. So again, I'm going to try and make this a bit lighter to do the construction lines, but with it being pen, it might not be so easy. So this corner, I'm going to take back to the vanishing point. The top corner here, again, rotating the set square, going back to the vanishing point, and then the third one, going back to the vanishing point. This fourth corner here doesn't need to go back because obviously I wouldn't be able to see it. Now, this is a cube. This length here is the same length as this length here. In real life, the depth would also be the same length, but in perspective, if something is going back to the vanishing point, it gets smaller. So instead of using the full length here to take that back, we take it in a little bit smaller. So going for this line here, bring it in small till it hits the line, bringing it round, and then same here. So all of your lines should either be horizontal, vertical, or going back to the vanishing point. So putting that in here, just finishing with my construction lines to finish the cube. What if we wanted to add a hole into the cube? So again, because of the elevation, we draw that life size. I'm going to put a perfectly square hole into the middle of it. Again, using as light a line as I can, taking these across. Taking this down. I've got my construction lines, and then I can use my outline. I will try doing one of these in pencil just to see if it actually makes things a wee bit clearer. So now that I've got those outlined, because this is a hole, I need to show the inside of it. So that corner then obviously goes back to the vanishing point. If I wanted to do the same size of hole at the top, I can now take this construction line back. I can take that construction line back. And this is where I need to apply that process of foreshortening. I know that the distance from the edge of the cube to the edge of the hole is the same on all 4 sides, but because it's on the top, the distance from this edge of the cube to the start of the hole will be bigger than it will be at the back because it's got closer to the vanishing point. So I'm going to take an estimate here and say that it's maybe about there. Looking at the size that I've left myself here, I know at the back it is to be much smaller. So I'll maybe put that about there. Using my pen to outline that. And then again, to make it look like a hole, I need to take that corner and join it up. So let me just see if I've got a nice sharp pencil, which would be embarrassing if I didn't. I've got one. Oh my god, that's a 5B. I'm not using that for love nor money. And would you believe it, guys? I've got a mechanical pencil. So let's see if this shows up on the video. So the second example that I'd like you to do, once you've done the cube, I have put the elevation and end elevation up of a little shed, shall we call it. So using the construction lines, I'm going to draw the end elevation. That's showing up alright, isn't it? And I'll draw that here. So there is my little end elevation, and I'll draw the detail on it. So it's got a little roof sort of bit at the top here, and it's got a nice square window bang in the centre. So remember what we've been saying in class at National 5. So if you're crashing this, or if you didn't do the third year option, proportion is really important. Now, what do I mean by proportion? We're not measuring this. If you look at the orthographics I've supplied you with, the distance from here to here, here to here, and here to here are all the same on the drawing that I've given you. Therefore, in your drawing, you need to make sure that that size, and the final size are all the same. If you make your window bigger, or you make this gap small and that gap big, you will not get the mark. So spend a lot of time working on your proportion. In the next video, I'll use a trammel, which is an additional piece of paper, just to show you how you can get that proportion a wee bit easier. Okay, I've got my end elevation. Just to make it easier for the video, again, what I'm going to do just now is I'm going to take my pen and I'm going to outline it. That'll just make it a bit clearer, hopefully, to see what lines are part of the drawing and what are construction lines. So when you're practicing this, you'll be using a pencil. I'd be expecting you to hold your pencil fairly light, like the first video that I put up, so that your construction lines are light enough for you to be able to see and to follow. But as soon as you've darkened it down with your outline, they should sort of fade into the background, a bit like what's happened here between the pen and the pencil. So I've got the end elevation. According to my orthographics, that is corner X here. I'm going to be taking all of these points back to the vanishing point. So I'm going to use my set square. I'm going to take, I need to remember next time to put that on silent. And that's the 5B pencil. Now, when we're talking about pencil weights, guys, as I said, I've just picked this up. I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually a 5B. 5B or 6B? That is not appropriate for technical drawing, which is why it's so dark. So looking at the orthographics, we know that this is going back to the vanishing point. We know that the detail... Sorry, the orthographics just timed out there. We know that the detail shows that we have a gap, we have quite a large door, small gap, window, small gap. So looking at the proportion again, I would say that this part going back on the orthographics is about 1.5 times the size of this. So if I'm going to do 1.5, I'm going to make it a wee bit smaller than that. So looking at your proportion here, I'd say that it probably looks like it's going to be about there, right? Because remember, I have to make it look smaller because it's going back to the vanishing point. So if I take that there, it's definitely less than 1.5. Taking this line across as a horizontal line. Whoops. You then need to have your basic shape. If you look at the orthographics, this little roof section goes back. So taking my pen, I will just outline what I've got here. Now, over the course of, well, however long we're going to be out of school, it's really important that we start to cover a lot of the theory. Now, obviously, you might not have jotters if you are picking this subject up. Maybe you've left your folders in school. I have put up digital notes for the theory that you need to know. However, I genuinely believe that writing it through is the best way to remember it. So reading the notes is good, guys, but we need to start making sure that we're going over the theory. Okay, I don't want you at a disadvantage or having a massive panic when we go back. Okay, so picking up my pencil again, we need to look at these sizes. Now, this gap here, if you look at the drawings, is the same size as the first gap going back here. We know it needs to be smaller because it's going back, but not much because it's still quite close to the front. Now, while you're working this out, you need to keep these construction lines nice and light. I'm going to pretend, maybe put my door there. The door thickness is about double the size of that. So in real life, it'd probably be about there, but it's not. We're going back to the proportion, so I'm going to make it still bigger than this section, but not quite as big, and maybe put that there. Then we have a small gap for the window. And then we have the window itself. Now the gap here and the gap here on the orthographics are the same. So remember, this one has to be smaller at the back. So maybe about there. And now that I've looked at it, I'm quite happy with those proportions. Now it is time to put the lines in. Again, looking at the orthographics, you should be able to see that the height of this window is the same as the height on these doors. To make sure that they match, this construction line is going to be like a piece of string that we're wrapping around the building. So I'm going to take this here and very lightly take it back. Remember, it's a construction line. The height of the window is the same on both sides. So again, this bottom part of the window comes to the corner like a piece of string. You will start to realise where you need to put construction lines in. So rather than taking that whole line back, some people might just feel comfortable starting to put the line in just for the bottom of the window. Keeps your drawing a wee bit neater if you're comfortable with doing that. So taking my pen again, just so that it shows up better on the video, I'm going to outline all of my final decision lines that I want here. When you're outlining, make sure you're forming nice neat corners. Your corners should match. It should not overshoot, and you should have a building looking like that. So that, guys, is 1 point perspective. What I would like you to do, practice the cube. Try putting the holes into the cube. If you want to experiment with it, try putting a cube above the horizon line. Try putting them to the different side of the vanishing point. Once you feel comfortable with that, moving on to practice pictorial number 1, paying particular attention to proportion. So this is what I would like you to work on just now. This is a 1 point perspective. We are going to be doing the same drawings in each of the different styles. So you're going to do the cube with the holes, this little garage, in 1 point perspective, 2 point, isometric, oblique and planimetric, just till we get our skills up to speed. If you've got any questions, pop them into the Teams page and I'll try and get back to you as quickly as you can. Cheers!